Hello, my name is Oscar Gonzalez, and I am here with Mariana Garcia. And on behalf of the ADA National Network and the Spanish Language Outreach Project, we are introducing a new series of videos that aim to inform the Spanish-speaking community about their rights and the Americans with Disability Act. This presentation includes the second topic of the series, which focuses on the barriers faced by the Latino community in terms of accessing information about the ADA and rights. We will review the results of the study conducted by the ADA National Network and why this video is the first step to address some of those barriers. We will also discuss the importance of discussing disability and how community members can support this from their roles. All right, and now slide 2, a disclaimer. So the contents of this video does not necessarily represent the views of NIDLR or ACL, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government. So what is the objective of this video for today? The purpose of today includes 3 main points: understanding the barriers for the Latino community in accessing information in general and related to the ADA, rights, and support services. We will discuss why it is important to address these barriers and the role of community members in helping to reduce these barriers. And now Mariana will talk a little bit more about the importance of addressing these barriers.
Slide number 4. Thank you, Oscar. So let's discuss a little bit the importance of addressing all these barriers. So this video addresses our community's most common barriers to accessing information about their rights and some services and programs. It is crucial to understand these barriers so that as community members, we know what to do, how to do it, and when. By becoming aware of these barriers, we can create awareness of the community's everyday issues while encouraging action and advocacy. So let's look a little bit more about the research project we conducted. Slide number 5. So what is the Spanish Outreach Language Project? So as we mentioned in the introduction to this video series, the ADA National Network conducted a study to understand the context and the needs of the Spanish-speaking communities in the United States by interviewing community members and asking about their thoughts and perspectives. So as shown in this slide, the study included 60 community members across the 10 ADA regional centers across the United States. As displayed on the left side of the screen, a map of the United States shows 19 red pinpoints representing the states from where participants were located at the time of the interview. On the right side of the slide is a representation of the 60 community members who participated in these interviews. In light blue, you can see 14 members who worked in national organizations. In dark blue, 46 members who were at the local level in each state. Community members included parents, community resource managers, pastors, persons with disability, volunteers, educators, and many other members who work in some way with the Latino community. The variety of experiences allowed the national network to understand the community's context, needs, and barriers from different perspectives. It also provides other points of view on how to address these obstacles. So let's look in the next slide. What did we find? Slide number 6. So what were these barriers that we found? So in total, the ADA National Network found 4 main barriers that limit access to information about the rights of the Latino community. And these are: number 1, language barriers; number 2, lack of information about rights; number 3, fear and lack of trust in the system; and number 4, stigma. So in the following few slides, we will explain each barrier. And at the end of this video, we also will provide a link to the official report of this study. This report includes the findings of each of the 10 regions, a consolidated summary of all these 10 regions, and an analysis of the interviews conducted with national organizations. It also includes the recommendations from community members and the project next steps. So if you're interested about learning more about your region and those findings, you can check our resources and complementary material at the end of this video. So let's look into each of these barriers. Slide number 7. So the primary obstacle to understanding rights and accessing services for the Spanish-speaking community is a need for more information provided in Spanish. So this barrier comes in many ways. So first, information about rights is often only offered to people in the US in English. Second, there are not enough translation and interpretation services to make sure that Spanish speaking people can understand this information. Third, there is a lack of bilingual staff in local and federal entities that can provide information in Spanish. So, what happens? This prevents Latinos from obtaining information about rights, services, and programs. Fourth, when translations are made to Spanish, they are not always culturally appropriate, or the translation level is still too complicated for the community. Therefore, it can be challenging to understand the information even if the material is in Spanish. So, with all these challenges, the pressure for translating and interpreting information about rights and disability is often put on bilingual family members. Let's look at the second barrier. Slide number 8. So lack of information about rights. So what does that mean? So another common challenge is this lack of information about rights, programs, and services available to people with disabilities in the community. Many people in the Spanish-speaking community do not know they have rights, especially as people and immigrants with disabilities. This may be because people need clarification on what rights are. Information about rights or services is full of legal terminology, which makes them very difficult to understand. So our people are unsure where to find these resources and how to understand these resources. And overall information about rights and disability is not getting to the Spanish speaking community. So that is a big and significant barrier. Let's look at the third barrier. Slide number 9. So another main barrier is the discrimination that Spanish-speaking people face in the U.S. and continue to face on a daily basis. Discrimination can lead to many challenges. So research shows that language differences can lead to discrimination at school, workplaces, and public places. So participants in the Spanish language outreach study report that stigma attached to disability and especially mental health can become a significant barrier to understand and to seek resources. Many people report feeling shame towards disability and so do not talk about often about this topic. Many people do not associate mental health with the disability, and we discussed this a little bit in video number 1. So there is a gap in the amount of people living with a mental health condition and those who call this a disability. So there is a misconnection there. And this can be due to the stigma and the discrimination individuals with mental health conditions face. Um, and this just limit their rights to self-determination and access to services. And let's look at the last barrier. Slide number 10. So the last barrier is that for many people in the Spanish-speaking community, we live in constant fear of being deported or getting in trouble with immigration services. So people report that they are not sure who to trust with their immigration status. Fears and distrust of the government or professionals may stem from previous negative experiences and mistreatment by law enforcement. This fear and mistrust can affect the Spanish-speaking community's access to rights and services in many different ways. On the one hand, it can prevent people from contacting professionals to learn about rights and disability, and it is understandable that many people prefer to get information from trusted people in their communities. However, this can lead to gaps in the understanding of these rights and all the resources available to people with disabilities. And then finally, fear and mistrust can prevent people from talking to law enforcement groups about their rights when something goes wrong. So let's look at what did they say about these barriers and how we can address it. Slide number 11. So what did community members say? Now that we understand the barriers the Spanish speaking community face to accessing rights and services, it is important to discuss how we, as community members, can help to address these challenges. So, community members suggested providing basic training and workshops to so people can understand some basic information about disability and rights specific to their community. This can also help the community to understand the complexities of the ADA. Also, community members recommended that organizations like us, the ADA National Network, partner with trusted leaders in the community to assist in spreading this information. Trusted community leaders can be educated to help their local community members more efficiently. Further, information provided to communities must be provided in Spanish. We discussed how the need for more information in Spanish is a huge barrier for people to understand their rights. This means that information provided in Spanish and English must also be accessible and culturally relevant. Any information translated into Spanish should be done by a professional to ensure the information is tailored to our community. Another recommendation is that group information must be specific to the local area. This means that it would be helpful to give resources to these communities based on where they live and where they work. And lastly, it is recommended that organizations who want to share information about rights and services incorporate social media into their outreach strategy. Social media is growing in popularity, and many people use these platforms to spread information amongst their communities. So, overall, we all have a role in addressing the challenges the Spanish speaking community face in understanding disability and their rights. So, together, we can use some of these strategies to make information more accessible and especially culturally appropriate. So, Oscar now is going to talk about after all these understanding all these barriers and with these recommendations, what is the national network doing exactly to address these barriers that we learned in the study?
Slide number 12. Thank you, Mar. So thank you, Mariana. And so we took all the information that from the community members. And so now what is the ADA National doing? As recommended, the National Network took the initiative to develop material for this video series to address some of the mentioned barriers. Therefore, this video series seeks to address the main concerns based on the calls received from Spanish-speaking community members throughout the 10 ADA regional centers. We also hope to develop materials that provide basic knowledge to make the ADA more comprehensive, and this video is accompanied by new materials written in English and Spanish that are tailored to the community. Lastly, the National Network is working on centralizing the information in one place, so it is easy for the community members to access resources and more information on the ADA or any other related topic. Slide 13. And so what are some of the main questions that we have received from the community? The graph in this slide shows some of the calls that the National Network receives from members of the Spanish-speaking community. The results from the graph show the main questions received from the community, with questions ranging from general inquiries about the ADA to more detailed concerns about employment and service animals. We will cover most of these topics and their relation to the ADA throughout the video series, and we have already reviewed the definition of disability, but we'll touch on other issues as we go through the video. This evidence also helps us centralize the main concerns, emphasize the topic, and provide the necessary information to the community. Slide number 14. And so the concerns of our community in our evaluation of the Latino community's knowledge of the ADA and their rights, we found that barriers around knowledge of their rights, language access issues, and lack of access to services were some of the most referenced points of concern. Slide 15. And so we'll continue to review the three cases in this video series of Lucia, Martha, and Lucas, and given the discussions around common barriers that the community faces in relation to the ADA. We will explore one of our three case studies, Lucas, to learn more about the importance of accessing information to protect his rights and prevent discrimination. Slide 16. And so, Lucas's family migrated to the United States from Mexico 10 years ago. They are undocumented, and Lucas has autism. So, what's the situation? Lucas is not allowed to participate in soccer practices at the public park programs in his neighborhood. His family does not speak English, and they do not know what to do in that case because they do not have enough information about their rights. In this case, we can see one of the barriers, which is access and knowledge of information available to advocate for participating in the local programming for someone with a disability. In an upcoming video, we will get into how local programs could provide accommodations for Lucas to participate in the practice. Slide 17. So we continue to address what the role in supporting the community can be. Throughout this video, we review important topics that require community members to take some action. We review the major barriers Latino people with disabilities face in the United States, accessing information to know more about their rights. We also review how disclosure, or talking about disability, is an essential part of the process. Remembering that community members can serve in multiple roles is equally important. For people with disabilities, it is important to review the disability laws that protect them at work, schools, community living, and other areas. It is also essential to share information with other community members and increase the support network to help reduce the mentioned barriers. As employers, it is important to promote and provide an inclusive work culture. This means fostering diversity and supporting those who need support to perform their jobs, considering the limits of the law. Also, it is recommended to keep providing your staff with training in disability awareness and how to create an inclusive environment at work. Finally, stay up to date with the rights and responsibilities of the laws that protect both employers and employees. And the secondary, as a family member, it is crucial to feel comfortable talking about disability at home, as we know the importance of family in Latino culture. Also, it is important for parents to educate themselves in terms of their children's rights and understand that they are also responsible for educating their children on their rights. Understand the needs of the children and support as needed. Also, provide a safe space and hold conversations about the disability of their children. This should start at an early age, but there's always time to have the conversation. Ensure you know how your child feels about it and support as needed. And we have professionals and service providers should get constant training on disability awareness and cultural competency. There is evidence that shows that many service providers underestimate Latinos, and this leads to wrong information, lack of resources, and health disparities. Therefore, more educational professionals and service providers can get let me rephrase that one. Therefore, the more education professionals and service providers can get about Latinos and disability, the more positive impact it will have on people with disabilities. Additionally, information and resources should be provided in different languages to reduce disparities in information. And then finally, community members can continue working on disability awareness and how to understand the community you are serving. It is always important to stay updated with available resources and provide useful information to the community. Recall that whenever possible, focus on providing information in different languages so it can reduce language barriers. Slide 18. So what are some of the key takeaways from this video on barriers for the Latino community and disclosure of disability? First, research shows that the Spanish-speaking communities face unique challenges in understanding their rights, including the rights of those with disabilities and accessing services. Community members like you and organizations that work with this community have a role in addressing these barriers. Disclosure is sharing information about a disability, and people may want to disclose for many reasons, including receiving reasonable work accommodations. So, the Americans with Disability Act supports and protects people who disclose a disability in the workplace. Slide number 19. And as we end this video, please take a brief moment to provide feedback on this video and its content. Your comments will assist us in improving video content to make it the most useful for community members. You can scan this QR code and visit the link available here on this slide. And if you would like to learn more about the ADA National Network and the Spanish Language Outreach Project, the following resources are available. Here are our references cited and further resources available for this video. Video series part 3. The next video in this series will cover some common legal terminology Spanish-speaking community faces.